We're here in the Creative Kitchen, and this is a tutorial that will show you how to assemble a Paasche VL airbrush. We exclusively use Paasche VL airbrushes, so if you learn to do this, you'll know how to assemble and disassemble for cleaning any airbrush in our shop to date. At the top here, you see what's called the needle assembly. That's the trigger, and then this barrel assembly goes inside the airbrush. The good news, all airbrushes are basically assembled the same way. So if you learn how to assemble an airbrush of any manufacturer, in general, you know how to assemble an airbrush, period. Also, cup guns are assembled the same basic way, which would be something larger like this. It's just bigger, but the parts essentially are the same. So going back to our airbrush, the very first thing you'll do is you'll put the trigger inside. And the reason why is there's this little post that swings back and forth like a hinge. That way you can pull back on the trigger. Newer model airbrushes do not use that. They use a trigger that is solid, and it looks like this. It's just a post that sits on a bead and rocks. And this is the conventional, traditional trigger, which is most of the airbrushes in our shop. This will be something that takes the most time because there's a little hole down in this barrel here that this little post has to drop down in. So the first thing to do is we're going to drop that right down. It takes a little bit of toying with it, but eventually you'll drop that straight down and it will seat inside the cylinder. So it's going to take me a moment. Sometimes you get lucky and it happens right off the bat. Almost. Do it this way so you can see it. As you can see, it takes a little bit of time. You're kind of like fishing because what ends up happening is this little post moves. It also helps to look down the barrel. The inside, of course, in this video, there's no way you're going to be able to see it. But if you're assembling this yourself, it's easy just to look down the barrel. There's enough light where you can see the little port and drop it down in. As you can see, this is the most time-consuming part. And once it goes in, it's in, and it will spring up and down. If you would now, to lock that trigger in and keep it from coming out, the next thing I do is, and this is starting from the back, is you'll insert the needle all the way through and run it through the gun. If the needle doesn't easily slide back in through the gun, then that's a problem. That means there's a paint clog. Since we're doing a tutorial, we may as well use the lubricant, which is what it's for, just a little drop, and you want to run that on the barrel. That little blue tube is specifically made for airbrushes. It's not petroleum based or whatever else that will help corrode airbrushes. Okay, so that said, now we're going to add what's called the tip. This tip is brass, and is it a number 5 tip? And you must use a number 5 needle. You won't be able to see it well in the video, but there are 5 lines scribed in the end of this needle. And those 5 lines let us know that this is a number 5 needle. And we'll use that with a number 5 tip. And then a number 5 air cap, it's called. So we're going to thread this on. Now the rule of thumb with the air caps on our paint tool, it's the number 11. You want to tighten it snug, but not over tighten it. There's no need to over tighten it. And there you go, you've assembled it now. The next thing we put in is the barrel, and that threads right over. You're going to keep that little loose trigger part moved forward, and it's going to pop up right there in that hole. You can see that. I'll show you what the purpose for that is in a moment. The next thing is your spring. And if you don't put the spring on, your trigger will stay back like that, and it won't go forward again. And then you have your thumb screw. Oh, excuse me. Forgot a piece. There it is. Your barrel cap. You'll thread that on there just about till it stops. Probably about 10 to 12 turns. And you can see now when I pull the trigger back, it automatically springs forward. and that's the purpose for that part. And then the thumb screw presses the needle in place and locks it into that barrel assembly. So what should happen is your whole assembly, you should pull back and watch your needle go in and out on the tip, which it's doing. You can see that it's working fine. After that, you install your handle as so, and for storage, you put on the air cap. That's how you assemble an airbrush.